Good afternoon. Once again, my name is Guthrie Thomas. I'm a guitarist and songwriter, among other things. And I see that we had a few interested parties on the finger picking lesson one, so I guess we'll continue. And today we'll work on pretty simple stuff, but in conjunction with the alternating bass, it's a little more complicated. And one of them will be the finger roll. We'll do some hammer-ons and pull-offs, and we'll do some slide, and that's finger slide, not slide guitar, and a few bent notes. Bending notes is actually kind of easy. Well, it's all actually easy, but it's easy to say when you already know how to do it. So, first thing we're going to do is the finger roll. And what we do is the first three strings, 1, 2, 3, those are the bottom strings, and we're going to use our first finger, our second finger, and our third finger on our right hand. Now my fingernails are long, and I also use a national thumb pick. I use nationals because they're the best. And just like my guitars are made by Dave Bertoncini in Washington State. He's an incredibly good builder. I'm going to put up his website at the end of this lesson, and if you're interested in a really fine instrument, you might want to drop by and give him a call, but be patient. It takes him over a year to build one of these. But look into it at the end of the lesson. All right, the first thing we have is a roll, and that's just the first three strings with the first three fingers. And that's basically all there is to it. And all you're doing is putting your fingers on those three strings, 3, 2, and 1, and then just pull up and away. Just up and away. It's very simple. Up, away, and kind of out. That's basically what it sounds like. It's not difficult. It's not really that spectacular. It's kind of difficult to do if you don't have fingernails. You can do it with the standard finger picks. I don't use finger picks because they sound too tacky to me. They're really excellent on banjos, but guitars don't ring like banjos. So I use my fingers, but guitar picks will work also, finger picks. And that's not really that difficult, a three-fingered roll, until you put in the alternating bass, and which is what we learned last month. So all I'm doing is every time I hit the sixth string in my alternating bass, I'm doing the roll before I hit the third string in the alternating bass. So practice that. It's a little tough at first. It'll take you about an hour, and you'll get it down. Now, it's really boring to sit and do finger rolls all day, I know, and you're going to drive everybody in the neighborhood crazy if that's all you do. So what we're going to learn next is what we call the hammer-on, and it's not difficult. You just hit a string. We'll do the high string, the high E string today. In this case, it's a D because we're tuned in open D. And all you do is hit the string and hammer on. And that's basically why it's called a hammer on. You're just throwing your finger onto the string. And that's basically a hammer on. And there's three hammer-ons. So that's all a hammer-on is. So, but if you put it with your alternating bass and your roll, and I added in a slide. So now we'll talk about the slide. The slide is just when you take a string and you slide it up with your finger up to the next conducive fret, and or any fret that obviously is in tune with what you're playing. So it sounds a little like this. And those are just slides you can go down and up. And that's a slide. And these are little accents that when you're playing with your alternating bass, in between what you're playing mainly, will enhance your performance and your sound, but just a little bit more than some people are really expecting. And these are the little highlights that are good to know, and that you don't learn in books, really, and you can only see them or hear them from people who do it. And they're often forgotten on CDs and or buried by other stuff, so you really don't get a chance to hear the good stuff. All right, the next thing we're going to look into is what they call the pull-off. And the pull-off, to me, is probably one of the most important accents or highlights that you can do while you're playing your song or your instrumental. And all it is the exact opposite of a hammer-on. Your finger is already on the string, and then you hit it, just pull down and away, and you're kind of plucking the string with your left hand, even though your right hand isn't doing anything. And it kind of sounds like this. So all you're doing is pulling the string down and away, and you can do it on second strings, and you can do it on all the strings actually, but it works best on the first 4 strings from the bottom up. And when you put all 4 of those together, then you have the beginnings of a highly highlighted piece of work, and it really works really nicely. So it's something that you just fool around with, and being in open tuning makes it a little easier to practice these things. You can't do a lot of this stuff in regular tuning. It just doesn't sound good. And your fingers are so busy down here making your G chords and your C chords and your A minors that you really don't, it's not that you can't incorporate pull-offs and hammer-ons into those standard tuning, because you can, but you're just not free enough up here just to fool around with it and practice with it. And that's what we're trying to do now, is just learn those little accents and highlights, and so that we can move into other tunings and use them comfortably with what we're writing. Now sometimes they don't work at all, so it's really a matter of discretion when to use them and when not to use them, and don't overdo it when you do get good at it. It's best to use the highlights just at the moments where you think that they're important, and don't spend the whole instrumental piece or song doing highlights, because nobody will hear your song. And the next thing we want to do is maybe learn some of the bends. Actually, I'm just going to show you one because it's actually quite simple. It's between the 9th and 7th fret on the 2nd string, and I use that one because it's good with this tuning. And it's just a bend, and all you're doing is bending the 2nd string up so that it raises the pitch of the note. So you're holding the string down and just bending it up, and then you can let it bend that back down to hear it go back down, so it's up and down. I usually just do it up, I don't do it down too much. And it can sound something like this. All that is alternating bass, some pull-offs, some hammer-ons, some slides, and the bending of the note. And it's basically old-time Delta blues playing that I learned many, many years ago. And much of it I learned from a fellow named Dave Van Ronk, one of the best singer-songwriters of his day, and certainly into his passing. May he rest in peace. And of course, there probably would not be any Bob Dylan today if it weren't for good old Dave Van Ronk, because he gave him a place to stay and taught him a whole lot. In any event, we'll leave it at that for the day. I hope this was enough to get you going. And remember, just put it together with an alternating bass, and we'll see you next month. And I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and until next time, have a good time, and keep practicing. Thank you very much.